This is the Shiftheads podcast with Shane Hewitt and friends.
Welcome to the Shiftheads podcast. I'm Shane Hewitt. After taking a week off, and Steve Stebbing was left on an island all by himself. He did a great job, by the way, and so did the Cloinator.
Yeah, she's really killing it right now.
She's killing it. Now, Chloe is Steve's daughter, who's an adult, by the way.
Yes.
And a very smart one at that. She's kind of like you know, she's delightfully odd, delightfully weird, smart, playful, well-spoken, right? I mean all those things as compliments.
Oh, for sure.
And so she's kind of like you like that. You guys make an interesting dynamic for those who want to stick around and watch the video we've got coming up.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to rebond as adults and talk movies every week. I mean, she's living in the Lower Mainland in Surrey there, and I'm here in Penticton. So for us to do this back and forth every week is that's the big gift. And it's just cool that we're able to share it with the internet. And through the Shiftheads and through my YouTube page. So
well,
it's very
the
cool.
apple doesn't fall far from the horror tree.
No,
which as a father is concerning.
Yeah, because she's
way into it more than you.
Yeah, she's into the more hardcore and maybe the schlockier. Like she likes the there's movies called the Terrifier movies, Terrifier 1 and 2, and they feature like a sadistic clown named Art. And she on this episode today professes her love for these movies. So she is definitely more hardcore than I am in that degree.
Ask yourself in those moments and be like, oh my God, what have I done?
Hey, you know, it's up to our kids to surpass us. So
yeah, but
here we are.
I don't know if those are the ways that they talk about it. My dad's advice always was, you know, your job is to be better than me, be a better employee, a harder worker, a better partner, a better dad. Like that was his, like, just be one more step further ahead than I ever was. And that's a good challenge for all the dads out there and the moms to be able to dig into that. All right, stevestebbing.ca, shanehewitt.ca, down in the description if you want to connect with all of it. And don't forget to follow Steve's YouTube channel and this one as well.
Please.
So that helps us. Yeah, that helps us a ton. Okay, a couple things, Steve, that I wanted to bring up before you get into the list of things. Drive to Survive, the F1 series is out. I didn't catch it on the Friday. I had planned some time when it came out, and I didn't catch it. Life got busy, watched a bunch of it, basically binged the whole season over the course of 3 or 4 days, watched a couple a day. And I got to tell you, I was thoroughly disappointed in it this year. It was so, and I think maybe it's because they've got so much audience coming into the show that it's new, that it was so very top line that it didn't really dig much into the drama of it this time. And aside from basically after watching the season, I was excited after watching the whole season to see the show, right? Aside from new camera angles and some different conversations, like when Danny Ricardo broke his hand,
right,
and bits and pieces like that, it really didn't dig into the nuts and bolts of a whole lot of anything. I was surprised.
Do you think that it may be F1 or certain teams, Red Bull, Mercedes, trying to shy away from internal issues that were happening at the time? Because we had the Lewis Hamilton contract thing with Mercedes
that came after the season, right?
Yeah, and but what leads to that, if you know what I'm saying? Like, is it them protecting their brand and making something, and the result being that you have a kind of bland season as a result? Because
I think they're getting better at it. Right.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of comments of like, oh, there's Netflix microphone, like Netflix showed up again.
Right.
Microphone drops in on always, and then they stop talking. I mean, there was more than one scenario where the drivers were standing around, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, the Netflix crew sort of shows up and the microphone drops above them and they basically all stop talking. And so I found that happened more than once in it, which if I was in their shoes, yeah, absolutely, I would stop.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of times where, you know, forgot they had the microphones on, and there's some, you know, filthy 20 to 30-year-old young man humor, and playfully, like it's playful. And then, but it's dirty. And then there's, you know, and then Gunther was there, and even Gunther was not as strong in the season this year, but his season was terrible. And You know, they talked a lot about Nick DeVries and how he got kicked out and Danny Ricciardo got the seat. But aside from that, it'll be curious to see, because what's happened since then is what you said. Lewis Hamilton is moving to Ferrari, and then everything to do with Red Bull and Christian Horner and the internal investigation to start the season.
Yes.
So I don't know, is that stuff going to make it or not? Maybe we have to wait and see if those things are there. It seems to me that if you don't know Drive to Survive and you don't know F1 and you're curious about it, it's a great access point for you to get into it. I found the first 5 seasons really kind of got deeper and deeper into the storylines. I didn't find season 6 really dug in. If anything, it got more shallow, and maybe that's to introduce more people to F1, which is a good thing.
Maybe it's like you said, it's pit crew and drivers and everything, just being wise to what they're saying when cameras and microphones are around. So the less they want out there, the quieter they'll be.
I saw on Instagram after the weekend of the first race where a couple of the drivers had spoken about things that happened, immaturity, irresponsible other drivers, that kind of stuff. That stuff was more available on Instagram than it was in the Drive to Survive series. That's where I think I'm a little bit disappointed, but worth it. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely worth it. And I watched Oppenheimer for a second time. Mel wanted to see it. And because Oppenheimer jumps around so much in timeline, watching it a second time, I recommend that, Steve, because you know what the actual storyline is. You don't when you watch it the first time. There's 3 basic storylines that are happening at once. It's hard to follow. But after you've seen the ending, you know which one of those is the actual storyline of the movie. Yeah. Then I got why it was such a celebrated movie. The first time I watched it, I was like, it's a really good movie, but it's really not great. Like, really well done, really deep, all that stuff. But I was like, why did it win so much? Watched it a second time after I knew the timeline. I was like, it's a 2-watcher. You got to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's definitely prestige filmmaking. I keep bringing up that word a lot, but there are certain filmmakers that's what they do. Scorsese is one of them. I mean, Denis Villeneuve's one of them. And of course, Christopher Nolan is definitely one of them.
Yeah. But worth it again, right? I don't mean anything by it that's negative. It just, it's, you got to plan the time to watch it a couple of times. That's for sure. And, I mean, the acting is great. It's a great show, right?
Yeah. Especially that one of those end scenes with Emily Blunt in the interrogation. That's what got her the best supporting actress nomination, is that scene.
Yeah. Well, when Oppie's talking about his extracurricular activities, that part was kind of wild. The erosion of her character and the impact on her. Yeah. And I mean, I think that was anybody who's ever been in a relationship saw that one and went, ugh.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Absolutely.
But worth it. Trying to be vague on purpose for no spoilers. I think that's fair.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's good. We got to keep it fresh, especially we're heading into the Oscars this weekend. So we got to keep it fresh.
After watching Peaky Blinders, Oppenheimer's a bit of a screw with your mind, but it's
very different characters.
Very different characters, but worth the go. Okay. What's coming up? What the hell should we watch, Steve? What can we look forward to? Because you and Chloe got the clip.
Yeah, this is the big one as far as 2024 goes so far. This is the benchmark. Dune Part 2, my full review. Do I call it one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time? Spoiler alert, maybe. Adam Sandler has a new dramatic role, and as we know, he chooses his dramatic roles very selectively. There's probably only 6 that he's done. Spaceman available on Netflix now. Give my thoughts on that, as well as the huge FX series Shogun, which is now on Disney Plus. Well worth your time. I'll break that one down as well. And yeah, I've seen the 1980 original, so I can do some comparisons there. But yeah, that's what me and Chloe have this week on What the Hell Should You Watch?
All right. So don't forget, subscribe to the Steve Dead link, which is in the description, stevestebbing.ca to keep in touch, and shanehewitt.ca for me. Don't forget, get involved in the community. More than 3,300 people sending out stupid memes, making jokes, sharing pictures, and sharing pieces of their lives online at shiftheads.ca. It's a lot of fun and a good bunch. All right, Steve, ready to go?
Let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing,
I'm Chloe Stebbing.
and we're here to give you everything that you should get inside your eyeballs this weekend in through the following week. I got a big one to talk about this week. Probably the bar for movies has been set already in March. But before we get to that, we had a copyright flag that I had to do some YouTube editing on, which leaves kind of a blank spot towards the end of last week's episode. And it totally blanked out a Bruce Willis and Michael Rooker movie that you were talking about, Chloe. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was a Roku original. Maybe that's what got
It was
us
a Tubi
flagged.
original.
Oh, sorry, Tubi
Even better.
original. Yeah, that's right. But so what was this movie even called? I totally blanked on what it was called.
It was called Corrective Measures. Yeah, it starred Bruce Willis and Michael Rooker. Tom Cavanaugh was also in it. And the main character, blanking on his name, he's the Red Power Ranger in like Dino Rangers or something.
I was gonna be like in the like Elizabeth Banks Power Rangers movie, because isn't that Billy from Stranger Things, that Dacre Montgomery? But no, we're talking we're going to the
We're talking about Dino Rangers. It's
right,
cooler.
which is like pre-Netflix.
I think it's actually quite recent. I think it's
wait.
2014.
Okay,
like
so
one
it
of the
would be
new
during the
movies.
Netflix era.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really funny to figure that out because it's just it's just Power Ranging all over the place, all over these bad guys. And his because it's a prison that houses supervillains, right?
Mhm.
But the main character's power is that he's an empath.
Okay. Lame.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super lame.
Yeah.
And then everybody else has like lightning and like fireballs and stuff, and he's just over here like, other people being sad makes me sad.
Yeah, that's bad. If he's in a super powered prison as well, like it's a little overreaching. He maybe should be in the blue collar side of the
Yeah.
super powered prison. Because
Yeah,
when I
for
hear
sure.
this, I think The Raft from Marvel, but it was in a void, right? That was the basis of it.
Yeah.
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 All right.
You
So
don't need to see it.
there we go. So now we got that out of the way. Let's talk about what you do need to see. And we're starting off this week with Dune Part 2.
Paul Atreides unites with Chani and the Fremen, while seeking revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family.
The Harkonnens. And I mean, Denis Villeneuve is just a cinematic gift. I think probably one of my most anticipated filmmakers every time he makes a film. There is something so precise about how he makes a movie, and there's just no margin for error. And also the way his movies play is there's no fat to these movies. Like they all feel, every scene feels so necessary and pivotal that there's nothing to trim away. Like everything is so lean and always great performances. Sometimes the script is a bit minimal and relies on visual over dialogue. But I would say in Dune Part 2, there is way more dialogue than there was in Part 1. Part 1 does feel like the building of the world, the building of the war between the Atreides and the Harkonnens. But I will easily say that Dune Part 1 and Part 2 now are two of the greatest science fiction films ever made. And it's undeniable. It is such incredible storytelling, and Timothy Chalamet moves up another level in his career and is now like this blockbuster leader of film because he commands the screen every time that he's on it. Zendaya is also just has so much charisma in her performance as well. Javier Bardem's having the time of his life in this one. Rebecca Ferguson is incredible. Florence Pugh. I mean, I don't think that there's ever been a time where I've said Florence Pugh hasn't done a good job in a movie. Is just consistent. And Dune is a film that really sets itself apart in a genre that has so much history. But I absolutely loved it, and it takes a lot of the problematic stuff in Dune, because I mean, Frank Herbert wrote Dune, I mean, way more than half a century ago, and so of course there has to be some modernization to it, and I think Villeneuve does it with absolute care. And I'm really excited if they're going to do Dune Messiah, because they leave it open so beautifully in this film. And yeah, I rated it on Letterboxd a 5 out of 5, and because it's an incredible film. And I would love to hear your take on both of these when you get around to them, because the first one I believe is on Crave. It might be on Netflix now, but I'd love to hear what you think about it eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I love all those actors. I mean, I haven't really seen Timothy Chalamet in anything, and his face just makes me laugh. Um, but but yeah, I mean, like Florence Pugh, Zendaya, like they're really good in the things that they're in. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
But as I said, Dune should be on your list because it's incredible stuff. Let's do more space stuff. Last week, space stuff this week. Let's just continue with it. This one's on Netflix. It's called Spaceman.
Half a year into his solo mission on the edge of the solar system, an astronaut concerned with the state of his life back on Earth is helped by an ancient creature he discovers in the bowels of his ship. Starring Adam Sandler, Carey Mulligan, Kamal Nair, and the voice of Paul Dano.
Yes, as a spider. Have you seen the trailer for this one or checked it out yet? It's on Netflix, so you
I've
could check it out
not heard of
now.
this.
Yeah, so Paul Dano is essentially a spider on this ship, because like you said, Sandler is an astronaut that's on a long space mission and discovers this creature on the ship, and it helps him kind of unpack his undiagnosed loneliness. And at its core, it really is an art film, and I think it moves beautifully as that, because the craziest thing about Adam Sandler is every time he's committed to a dramatic role, which is not a huge amount of times over a long career that he's had, every time he does it, he knocks it out of the park. Like, he is probably one
For
of
sure.
the greatest dramatic actors, uh, dramatic actors that's, this day job as a comedian, that I've ever seen. Um, I mean, there are others out there that are really good. Jim Gaffigan's one that comes to mind that is just really
Mhm.
great anytime he does drama. But Adam Sandler, it's few and far between, but every time it's great. And the director of this one, Johan Renck, he is he makes music videos largely, but he also did a film called Downloading Diana or something like that. I was told about it on my other podcast after the credits, so I really want to check that one out. But his this film, always through his lens, always looks really interesting. And when he approached Sandler to do this movie, he told Sandler, I don't want the Adam Sandler voice. And you know exactly what I'm talking about when it's the Adam Sandler voice. So it's like
Yeah.
that kind of quintessential stereotypical one. And when you listen to his line deliveries in this, it is completely like, if you were to close your eyes, you would think it was any other actor. Like, it does not sound like Adam Sandler. He did a really, really good job in focusing on that. And like, I thought that was like incredible. As far as um an actor committing to their craft goes, Sandler just did a really, really great job. And Paul Dano, the voice of Paul Dano is so soothing and comforting, and it comes from a giant spider, which makes it just weird.
Right.
But yeah, visually just stunning. And again, a movie that I think is weird enough that you might find a lot of interest in it. So I'm looking forward to what you think about this one in the future. But I should put Sandman on your list. Sorry, Sandman. The Sandman's in it, but put Spaceman on your list because it's worth checking out.
Wait, Thomas Hayden Church is in this?
No.
If we're talking about the Sandman?
No. Oh, no. No. But there is a weird movie. It made me just think of a weird movie that Thomas Hayden Church is in.
I love
Thomas
Hayden Church.
Always an underrated actor. Like he's
Yeah.
always really, really good in everything that I've seen him in. It's unfortunate that he's all CG in No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home. He's pretty much all CG.
I was so pissed when I saw that movie and he was barely in it. Like I literally put that movie on to see Tobey Maguire and Thomas Hayden Church and Willem Dafoe. And they didn't give me Thomas Hayden Church.
No, they gave a CG rendering of him, essentially.
They gave me CG dirt.
That pretty much that's exactly what it is. The movie's called Acid Man, and it's him and Diana Agron from Glee that are in it. And yeah, he's hearing transmissions from space. But yeah, where was I on this one? Oh yeah, Spaceman. Spaceman's I think it's definitely worth checking out. So let's move on to Taika Waititi's new film, Next Goal Wins, which is available on Disney+.
The story of the infamously terrible American Samoa soccer team, known for a brutal 2001 FIFA match they lost 31-0, starring Michael Fassbender and Oscar Knightley.
And directed and written by Taika Waititi, which is like the guy that the internet has fallen out of love with, it seems like, that people hated Thor, Love and Thunder, and hated what he did to the whole MCU stuff there. And just like Hollywood got really sick of him really quick. And I'm not there yet. I still enjoyed Taika's work quite a bit. He's quirky enough. He hits my funny bone really well. In that kind of that New Zealander charm, that wackiness that's followed him into What We Do in the Shadows or the pirate show, Our Flag Means Death. There's
What We Do in the Shadows is so good.
It's so funny. And I mean, if it wasn't for him and Jermaine Clement, none of that would exist. Is Next Goal Wins like a fantastic movie? No. I think, in all honesty, it's Taika's worst film. But that's not to say it's a bad film. It still made me laugh from beginning to end. Oscar Knightley is the big reason why I love this film. And I usually really love Michael Fassbender, but his character in this, he's the disgraced coach that is brought in to get winning ways with this, or just one singular goal for this embarrassed American Samoa team. Like, his character is very formulaic. Like, he's the fish out of water. He's grumpy. He doesn't want to embrace the town or the team, and then he eventually falls in love with it and finds redemption through it. Like that, it's very formula based, and it's probably why I didn't love him as much as I love the surrounding people in this. But I mean, if you're looking for a good comedy and a good underdog comedy, this one's fun. And it got slagged a lot when it came out in theaters, but I don't think it deserved as much as it got, because it's a sweetheart film. And I think when we dismiss these movies like a lot, we get a little too jaded, I think. And this one's it's just fun. Why can't we just have a fun movie? All right. So R-rated rom-coms are back, because last night I watched Anyone But You.
After an amazing first date, Bea and Ben's fiery attraction turns ice cold until they find themselves unexpectedly reunited at a wedding in Australia. So they do what any two mature adults would do, pretend to be a couple. Starring Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, directed by Will Gluck.
Yes, and Will Gluck is the Easy A director. He also did Fired Up. He's got a good resume on him. very mainstream, very glossy Hollywood rom-coms, but this one has the R-rated edge, which makes some of those cheesier tropes work a lot better. And yeah, Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney have really, really great on-screen chemistry together. And I really dig Glenn Powell a lot. He was great in Top Gun Maverick. I even love him going back to Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some, or the Ryan Murphy TV series Scream Queens with Emma Roberts and Jamie Lee Curtis, and got a really big cast to it. I think Billy Lord was in that one as well. But he literally plays a character named Chad, who is exactly that. He is a total Chad, and he's like kind of where the stereotype comes from. And he was really great in that. And to now see his star rising so much, because this film, interestingly enough, is the top grossing Shakespeare adaptation. It passed 1996's Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. It bumped that one out of the way. And yeah, and it took me way too long to figure this out. I didn't know it was an adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing until probably 25-30 minutes into the movie, which makes me feel like a dumb movie goer. But yeah, I did not pick up on that, because there's a lot of lines and act headings from it that appear in the background of scenes, and I did not pick up on that, so I was dumb. But I mean, good, not amazing, but something that when it comes to rom-coms kind of does its best to revolutionize it a little bit for a newer, a modern audience, and I dug what it was doing there. I got one more movie before we head into a bit of TV. And I'm late to the game on this one. You've probably already seen this one, but I am doing a movie journey, and I'm trying to, because the latest one came out, I'm trying to go through the entire VHS series. And because VHS 1985 is hitting Blu-ray this week, as we're recording this. So I like a good anthology film, but these movies kind of escaped me. I will say with this first film, like, it's got a good lineup of filmmakers. I mean, Radio Silence does some of it. They're now responsible for like Ready or Not, the last two Scream movies, and Abigail, which is coming out in April. David Bruckner, who did The Ritual on Netflix, and also did that Hellraiser reboot that was on Hulu and Disney Plus. Adam Wingard, who is doing all those Kong movies now, but also did Death Note and Blair Witch. We probably don't really
The live
want
action?
Yeah, the live
Death Note?
action Death Note. Yeah, it was Adam
Okay.
Wingard.
That was pretty good.
And the Blair Witch, the 2016 Blair Witch, which was not good. But my issue with VHS is it's 2 hours long. For a found footage movie, I feel like 2 hours is drastically pushing it, in my opinion, especially because this film feels like it has a lot of shaky cam filler. There are some really great horror payoffs. The one I really, really like is uh the one where they bring home that to their hotel room, that Lily girl that turns into like this vampire thing that tears them all apart. Like, that one was really, really solid and really well done. And the effects on Lily's face, especially, have you seen VHS?
I've seen them all.
Okay. When the head starts splitting apart, like on camera, and that brow starts coming through, I was like, that was incredible. Like, some of the payoff is really, really, really great. I really like the payoff with the guy that's been sitting in the chair the whole time, and it turns out like he's rotting and everything. Like, I thought that was really well done. There is so much abject misogyny in this movie, though. It is so, it's like all the writers had really bad breakup experiences. Like, it felt so anti-woman. like from the start. Like they're pranksters that go attack women and get them to show their boobs. Like, what is going on? Like nobody's good in this movie,
Yeah.
and they're all deserving of their fate. And the lack of gray area also makes this movie a little bit tough. But honestly, if you just trimmed it down quite a bit, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Not to say that I hated it, but I'm looking forward to continuing the journey, especially because VHS 2 is on Prime Video, and I think Viral is on Prime Video as well. And then I have to jump to Shudder for the rest of it. But finally going down this path of VHS because I've heard so much about it, so I better get it in there.
Yeah, I've seen all of them. And if I'm remembering correctly, a running theme throughout all of them is that none of the characters are likable. Everybody's a douchebag. Everybody sucks. And then, but for me, that adds to the fun because then it's like you get to enjoy their death more.
Yeah, that's fair. Because this is
like
your
finally
wheelhouse.
they're getting ripped apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Because this is your avenue. Well, the viewers will get to know that Chloe's avenue is horror. Like I do a horror podcast as well, but Chloe's just as immersed in the horror, and I think you're broader. You'll watch anything.
I will watch anything.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a shark movie.
Where do you land on the Terrifier movies? Just so we can get that out of the way.
I love the Terrifier movies. Maybe I've just become super numb to horror movies and gore and stuff, but Terrifier was one of the few movies that I've seen semi recently that actually made me recoil and have to not look. And they did great with the effects, the gore and all that. And yeah, that those are just really great movies. And then in the second one, they added more structure and they gave it an actual story. Um, not sure how I feel about the story itself, but I do appreciate that they're still trying, you know.
20-minute kill sequence? Isn't there isn't there like a 20-minute kill sequence?
I think so. Yeah, well, it's all killing. It's all
And
fucked up shit.
2 hours of it too, because it's a long
Yeah,
movie.
they're pretty long.
Yeah. Yeah, because we covered both we covered the first one for the podcast, and we've also covered All Hallows Eve, which is where Art the Clown came from. Before that, it was Damien Leone's first one. And yeah, I mean, it's just a spectrum of horror that I don't find myself on that side of anymore. But it's cool that we can both take on the genre for multiple sides, though. I think that one's really interesting. So it'll be cool for horror to come. And I know you have a horror movie you want to talk about at the end of this. So we'll move on.
I don't know if we can really call it that, but
we'll get to it. There's at least one scene in this one that I liked, but it's all few and far between. Let's hit some TV. Next up is Shogun.
When a mysterious European ship is found marooned in a nearby fishing village, Lord Yoshi Toranaga discovers secrets that could tip the scales of power and devastate his enemies, starring Hiroyuki Sanada and Cosmo Jarvis. And it's available on Disney+.
Yes, it's made by FX, available in Canada on Disney+. This is a remake of the 1980 miniseries starring Richard Chamberlain and Toshiro Mifune, who is known for so much of Kurosawa's work, Seven Samurai. He was just a renowned Japanese actor. And I remember seeing this series when I was young because my uncle really liked this show. And I will say right away that Cosmo Jarvis is doing this Richard Chamberlain impression in it that he really reminds me of Tom Hardy a lot in his performance. Um, and I really only know him from Lady Macbeth with Florence Pugh, which he was really good in as well. But this show is badass. Like, this is, early 1600s Japan, where the Japanese were so isolated away from the rest of the world that they thought that only Christian missionaries and the Portuguese were on the other sides of those waters. So to see the lie that the rest of the world has been perpetuating get exposed is really interesting. I also love a good pirate type story, and the culture clash I think is really interesting. The show is definitely very violent, lots of samurai action and beheadings and everything that are just incredibly well done, and it's sometimes like really shocking. And just gonna be a limited series. I think it's only 10 episodes, and will slowly be released. There's the 2-episode premiere, which is now on Disney Plus, and then it's an episode a week until it's finished its run. I think it's really worth checking out. So Shogun is a cool one, especially if you love history and Japanese history and samurais and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I actually checked this one out. I watched the first, like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of the first episode. Um, and I was shocked that this was coming out of Disney.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, a guy's head gets pissed on in like the first
Yeah.
15 minutes. And then there's lesbian sex was when I had to turn it off because it's the middle of the day and I have kids in my house.
But it's worth continuing, right? Like, the interest is
Yeah, for
there.
sure.
And even that that when they bump into that townsman and he bows his head and they just cut his head off right there. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, the ruthlessness of this time and everything, and how deep this battle for the highest title in the land is going to get is interesting. And just to see, I mean, also think it's interesting that our main character, Cosmo Jarvis's character, is an Englishman and has no way to communicate except with priests as their mouthpiece that has no interest in telling their stories, because
Yeah, they just lie. They just
yeah,
lie
so
about what's being said.
I think that's really interesting, especially when you get into some of their characters. Like, there's one character who has an obsession with death and pushing the limits of it that I think is really interesting too. Like, yeah, this show is going to be an all-timer. I think it could be one of the best shows of 2024. All right, let's move on to a mystery series. I was originally supposed to come out on Netflix in Canada. I don't know what the hell happened, but now it's on Prime Video, and it's called The Tourist.
When a man wakes up in the Australian outback with no memory, he must use the few clues he has to discover his identity before his past catches up with him. Starring Jamie Dornan and Danielle McDonald. It's available on Prime.
Yeah, I dig this show. I like a good mystery, and this is not just a good mystery, but it's an amnesiac mystery. So it's like a guy trying to regain who he is and why he's there, because he is a fish out of water. He's in Australia. The beginning starts out with him at a gas station. He hits the highway in Australia, gets chased down by a maniacal semi-truck driver and driven off the road in a catastrophic car accident, and wakes up in the hospital with no memory of who he is. And Daniel McDonald, who was really great in the movie Patty Cakes, about a aspiring rapper in New Jersey, came out probably 4 or 5 years ago. Solid film. Plays like a plucky deputy that's looking to make her mark in her first case. And I love a good mystery, especially when it's not predictable or telegraphed in any way. And this show really excels. And it plays out like, I feel like it could have just been a 1 season type of thing, but they did go on to make a second season, which just dropped on Prime Video in the last couple days. But the locale has been shifted to Ireland because Jamie Dornan didn't want to spend another 6 months in Australia away from his family. So I don't know how the storyline is going to change between seasons. I kind of felt like this was supposed to be like a dusty outback mystery, but it's good enough that I'm more than willing to see where this show goes. All right, documentary coming out from HBO. This is called God Saves Texas. It's based on a book by Lawrence Wright, and it's 3 filmmakers exploring Texas, their home state, and the nuances of growing up and the modern problems that still plague it. And I watched episode 1, and it was Richard Linklater who did episode 1. He's the director of Dazed and Confused and Boyhood and Everybody Wants Some, the Before trilogy, like many, many, many great films, School of Rock included, all of those ones. But the main focus of this one is Texas's prison system. And it's a really interesting in-depth one because he's from Highland, Texas, and this is largely a prison city. So a lot of the town is kind of run in the shadow of the city. Like you always hear the sirens from the prison and roll call sirens and all that stuff. There's a lot of the townspeople that work in the prison system and stuff, and then a large population of the Texas citizens will at some point spend time in the walls in prison because that their numbers are so high. And one of the big ones that they talk about is the death penalty in Texas, which is I mean, they have Richard Linklater trying to research a movie in 2006 and attending a protest against the death penalty, and then doesn't attend another one for 16 years later. And in that gap, there were close to 400 executions over 16 years, which is just baffling to even think about. Like,
Yeah.
that's insane. And
Yeah.
I mean, the death penalty is an incredibly sticky subject because there have to be so many innocent people that were put to death. But at the
Mhm.
same time, there are some crimes that are proven crimes that people do that warrant it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a fascinating conversation, and God Save Texas, at least episode 1 really brings that conversation to the forefront, and I thought it was interesting. I guess I should have given you the synopsis on that one, eh?
It's
Did I
okay.
give you a synopsis on it?
Yeah.
What was it?
But
What was it?
well, it just says Tales of Texas told through the lenses of 3 directors chronicling the state's past, present, and future.
Yeah, so pretty much what I said. Well, fine. It was that. It was that, but
That
it's
one.
worth checking out. It's on Crave right now because Crave does a lot of the HBO broadcast stuff. So worth checking out if you like a good docuseries, and HBO is always good. And the last one of this week is Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
Eddie Halstead inherits his family's estate. Initially unaware it's home to a drug empire run by a syndicate that has no plans to vacate, created by Guy Ritchie.
Yes, and this one has Theo James is the lead in this one. And whenever I think Theo James, I'm like, Divergent. It's the Divergent guy. You know,
Is it?
the guy with Shailene Woodley, the lead of the Divergent movies, not Ansel Elgort,
Yeah.
but the brunette guy.
The guy who's like, what makes you think you can talk to me?
Were you a transfer too? Or Dauntless Born?
Are you kidding?
No.
What makes you think you can talk to me?
Yes, that
That
guy.
line makes me laugh so hard. It's so funny.
The unfinished Divergent series. They never finished it, right? They were supposed to do, because Allegiant, I think, is the final one,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
they
it
went
was
bankrupt or they
they
just
went
gave up.
bankrupt. Yeah, it was Summit
Yeah.
went bankrupt, and they were going to transition to TV, and then all the actors in it were like, "We didn't sign up to do a TV show,"
Yeah.
so they all jumped ship,
Like we're peasants.
right? Like Shailene Woodley's like, "I'm a movie actress." Ansel
Ugh,
Elgort,
but
he does TV right now, so. But
Shay, one thing I'll say about Shailene Woodley is she doesn't know how to cry on screen.
no. Are you thinking about To Catch a Killer? Did you
I'm thinking
watch?
about every time she's cried on screen.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. That's a good one. Yeah, and she's not good in Ferrari. Like, not good. It was really not
Ferrari?
good. Ferrari with Adam Driver, about Enzo Ferrari, came out about Christmas time last year.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not on Blu-ray yet, but once it is, Adam Driver is pretty solid, and Penelope Cruz is the reason to watch that movie. But it's a race. It's not a racing movie, but it's about a guy that makes race cars. But yeah, probably not your thing. But anyway, The Gentleman, this is the loose continuation of the Guy Ritchie film The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey and Charlie Hunnam and Henry Golding and Colin Farrell. Like, it had a huge cast to it. I don't know exactly yet how it's going to tie in to that. I just feel like it's borrowing the title. But Theo James, he's delivering this dialogue really well. Guy Ritchie, when it comes to his gangster films, Guy Ritchie absolutely rules. I mean, his origin is doing like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which is one of my favorite films of all time, as well as Snatch, which is also an all-time favorite. So when he digs into this gangster world, this London underground stuff, I feel like is his wheelhouse, and it's always where he excels. And I feel like I haven't seen this guy in forever, but Vinnie Jones is in this show as one of the estate's servants, and I adore Vinnie Jones, again going back to those early Guy Ritchie movies. And yeah, I'm really interested to see where this goes. The cinematography is fun and flashy. It's colorful. A lot of great actors around it that have done really good work in British television. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And yeah, Guy Ritchie and this writing team that he's been working with for the last like 7 or 8 years has been killing it every time. So I am definitely here for it. And it's a Netflix show, so pretty much going to get a pretty broad viewership, I think. And so that is it this week for What the Hell Should I Watch? Next week, I'm going to talk about Kung Fu Panda 4. But before we even get to our outro, Chloe, you saw something that I reviewed on The Shift last year. And I think it was on the list of things that I said, hey, this is coming out on Prime Video right now. You can check it out. And it probably steered you in a bad direction from your expression.
Yeah. So I watched Five Nights at Freddy's because it's on Prime now. I was initially gonna go see it in theaters. Glad I didn't do that. Um, honestly, I don't know what I expected. I mean, the original game came out when I was like 14. So obviously I was super into it. Um, and then the movie comes out and it has my boyfriend Josh Hutcherson, um, and my other boyfriend Matthew Lillard. um, so I was like, well, yeah, I have to see it. Um, oh, it no, like literally what I said at the end of watching that was, I have absorbed nothing. This has just been noises, colors, and iconic characters, and that is all the movie has going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's literally it. It's Josh Hutcherson. Look, it's Matthew Lillard. Look, it's Freddie Fazbear. Look, it's all the other guys. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like okay, there's no actual story around it. Like, there's like a weird plot point where it's like, oh, Josh Hutcherson's sister is gonna be adopted by the aunt that everybody hates because she's a bitch.
Yeah.
Um, but then that doesn't happen
Yeah.
at all. Like, that's not really even like a worry. It's like there's never any urgency to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the
One
plot's a
thing
mess in this movie. The plot is
yeah,
a complete mess.
it's no, like it's all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like they wanted to like follow the game lore because like I know the game lore. It's like hours and hours worth of content.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not something that you can just hammer out in an hour and a half long movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they like skimmed over like a cliff notes of it and they were like, okay, I get it. But they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I mean it was like it kept my eyes on the screen just because it's flashing colors. But
Yeah.
it's nothing to, tell people to watch.
It has one kill which I thought was interesting, but it's in shadow, and it's the babysitter getting bit in half by a Freddy Fazbear.
Yeah.
But I feel like, because I don't have the history of Five Nights at Freddy's, so it really reminded me of a Nicolas Cage movie that came out a couple of years ago, Willy's Wonderland, which
Yeah.
was actually a far more violent film
Yeah.
than Five Nights at Freddy's even turned out to be. My youngest, your sister, Hannah, is obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's and with this movie and everything, but has not seen the movie because I don't think that they're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the intent is there. But as far as, it's not really scary. It's jump scary, but I think that's what's part of Five Nights at Freddy's as a game itself, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I don't know.
like my kids, like we were just watching it during the day, and like I'm super like teaching the kids about like how movies work and like how they can do the things that they do in movies, like stunts, makeup,
Mm-hmm.
CG, like all that stuff. So like they were like passively watching it, and they like Five Nights at Freddy's as well, and they were just like, whoa, it's so cool, it's so cool. But
The creature effects were good in it because it is the Henson company, basically the Muppet company that did all of the animatronics and everything. So they did that really well. Excuse me. But for Blumhouse to be kind of being dogged to make this movie for a long time, like I know the internet has been ravenous on Jason Blum to make this movie, it just didn't feel like everything it was supposed to be. But again, I'm not the demographic, so I'm really not too sure.
I was pretty disappointed when I learned that Blumhouse was doing it, just because I was like, and like coupled with the 14 age rating,
Mm-hmm.
like horror movies specifically with 14A ratings
Mm-hmm.
are gonna be, off-screen kills. Like they they couldn't even say in the movie what William Afton did to the child victims because it's a 14A movie. They couldn't say it. They were just like he did very bad things. And it's like, okay. Well, yeah, they're dead, so
Yeah, exactly. The cutaway. But I love a maniacal Matthew Lillard.
yeah.
And I mean, putting it onto the universe, Matthew Lillard is a one day dream get for a podcast. So just putting it out there into the
Yes.
world. It would be a full dedicated episode. But I don't think this is one that we would talk about. So it's good to get your thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's, and kind of lines up with mine. So Yeah, that definitely works. All right, so that is it this week on What the Hell Should I Watch? You can find this episode on stevestebbing.ca. Please, if you haven't already on the YouTube channel here, please like and subscribe and share it with friends, because that's how we get out there and we raise our numbers here. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Letterboxd at the Stevel Dead. Chloe, you're on Letterboxd as well now.
Yeah, you can find me at Honeybun Chloe or just Chloe Stebbing on Letterboxd.
And you don't
That's
have
all
a
I got.
social media, so if you
Nope.
want to send Chloe a question, you would put it in the comments and down here, and we'll address them on the next episode. Like I said, Kung Fu Panda 4 is the big movie next week. I'm also watching Damsel with Millie Bobby Brown currently, so I will be bringing that one as well. But until next week, bye-bye, everybody.